Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we are going to take a fully spoilery look at Chapter 70 of Kaiju number 8, and am I ever excited for this? 23 pages, man, and they just went by in a flash, and yet I still had time to be, what's the word for it? Disappointed? So when you get faked out for something, teased. I still have time to be disappointed teased. And what do I mean by that? So there's this massive chunk of the chapter. The main body of the chapter is all about an event that when you start off looks like it should be relegated to a few panels on the first page, like the first few pages of the ant attack. And when you first read it, it feels like a continuation of the concept in the previous chapter that people were just going along living their lives right before the Kaiju attack. But it seemed to go on for a long time. I'm like, wow, Matsumoto's really wasting a lot of time on this. But then I read through to the end and the chapter just felt satisfying, intensely satisfying in a way that I couldn't quite understand. So now I'm going to get into the spoilers for that, so you have been warned. Before I get into the spoilers for Chapter 70, check out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird. I have the data, or Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote. And remember, the third book in the series will be launching, Humans Are Weird, titled to be revealed on October 2nd. Alrighty then, Chapter 70. I am going to start out with a very old saying. This saying comes from the English translation of the Bible, and it was the concept here is that humans cannot know divine plans. Things happen, we don't know when they're going to happen, we don't know how they're going to happen. And we just, as humans, we have to deal with life as it comes to us in one moment at a time. We only have the present. But in the quotation is this: just as in the days of Noah, at the end of time, people will be marrying and giving in marriage. Now, in the days of Noah is a reference to the great worldwide flood that is recorded in every single culture that has any historical record. It's recorded in Chinese culture, in Japanese culture, in Native American cultures. Every single culture in the world has a record of the great flood that destroyed everything, and then a handful of people rebuilt after it. And in the biblical version, everybody was going along. There was one prophet, Noah, who warned people of it, but otherwise everything was going along just fine every day until it started raining. And the concept here is that when the disaster falls, we are going to be going about marrying and giving in marriage. Now, the concept is this: people don't marry, don't join together legally to begin families if they don't expect that they have a future. And while you might find young, inexperienced people who did that, but their parents, wiser, older heads, are certainly not going to be giving them in marriage during this time frame. So this concept is sort of a building block of Western culture. And because it is such a universal concept, because the flood is such a universal concept, the concept of a world-ending destruction coming down, and given the context of this series, they are literally facing a type of Armageddon or a type of Ragnarok here, with the Kaiju attack and the Kaiju number 9 attempting to wipe out humanity and build a Kaiju age in its stead. That sort of Armageddon, that sort of Ragnarok, at the very least for the island nation of Japan, is definitely the concept that the story is approaching here. And so this chapter opens with the living proof that Kafka and Mina have been succeeding in their goals. For all that they feel behind the 8 ball with the situation with Kaiju number 9, they have succeeded in their goal, and they are succeeding in this goal because everybody around them, the citizens of Japan, as scared as they are, do feel comfortable enough to go out marrying and giving in marriage. And so Chapter 70 opens with a wedding. And you see, it opens with actually an image of a character, and you look at him and you think, I've seen this guy before. We know this guy. This isn't just some random dude, but he's just standing there. He's really nervous, but you don't instantly recognize him because as I said, I read through this wedding scene that comprises the majority of the chapter. I'm like, why is Matsumoto focusing on this? Partially, it's to give us that information that no matter what goes down, at least for the past 3 to 5 months, Kafka and Mina have been fulfilling their childhood goal, making sure that the people in their community can live in peace. And then we find out who this is, and we get to see the fruits of a character arc we didn't even know we were watching that mirrors Kafka's character arc. Because this is Toku, one of the crew leads on Kafka's old crew on the Monster Sweepers, the Kaiju cleanup crew. We first saw him, he was a crew leader whose team was given the task of tearing down the arms on the first day that Reno shows up. Toku was the first co-worker that we get to see of Kafka's, face to face as it were. And when we see him, just like Kafka, he's kind of I wouldn't call him chubby, but definitely a middle-aged man on the wrong side of overweight. And he's missing a tooth, he's clearly, a lower working class kind of guy. Now in this we find out that, number one, he's been taking on more responsibilities. He's been taking on Kafka's responsibilities now that Kafka's left him. In a previous chapter, when they were cleaning up the ants from the big Kaiju number 9 fight, we saw him encouraging his team and providing that emotional support that Kafka used to provide for the team, and he directly references Kafka by saying, "We can't abandon Japan. Who would be here to clean up the monsters after Kafka and the Defense Force kill them?" And then, during this scene in the wedding, here we're talking about chapter 70 again, we see him, he's lost a lot of weight, he's trimmed down, he's standing up straight, his shoulders are back, he's nervous as all get out, he's here to give his daughter away. And we learned that his daughter was a juvenile delinquent, so she's tough like her daddy. He was a single father, he raised his daughter while working for the Kaiju cleanup crew. And he doesn't have much in the way of family support because the only people who are there standing with him are his fellow members on the Kaiju cleanup crew. And just in these few short panels, this is just the first page of this chapter, we learn so much about him. Single father, raised his daughter alone. Yeah, she was a juvenile delinquent, but she's pulled her life together. He's lost weight for his daughter's wedding, and he's managed to save up enough money. We know that he's been spending his money responsibly because he is able to afford this giant, beautiful wedding hall to give his daughter the big Western-style wedding that is popular in Japan. And this shows kind of the overlap between the Japanese and Western cultures. All of the places where these two very different cultures merged, because she's in the traditional Western wedding dress, and there's a Christian cross on the wall over the priest, and it looks like an Orthodox Christian priest, but this is a very Japanese ceremony. And so it really does show so much of the background and history that, of course, they don't get into the story, but if you've been an anime fan at all, even if you just watch Digimon or Pokemon, you know there is this odd overlap between the local Japanese religions and Christianity because of the interactions between the two cultures over the past century. And that's just on full display here. And this is Kafka's friend. This is one of his old work brothers from the Kaiju cleanup crew. And we see that he probably, from Kafka, got the courage to not just survive, but thrive. He hasn't been living in fear. He's been preparing his daughter to take the next step in her life. And then the Kaiju attack. And, this Kaiju, I'm going to have to do a whole video on this Kaiju. Alright, look at this. All the other Kaiju, they burst up out of the ground and they go on a rampage. They're either ignoring people or chasing people down at random. We get a look at this one specific Kaiju that walks up to the building, puts its little hands, its 3-fingered hands, against the glass and presses its nose against the glass like a child looking into an aquarium cage. It ignores all of the other buildings, the smaller buildings, and rams its head through the glass building into this chapel. And then its behavior towards the bride, oh my goodness, there are so many. Okay, it's not a red flag, not a green flag, a story flag. That was not a random Kaiju. I don't even know that was one of number 9's Kaijus. The behavior is so specific, the appearance is so specific. And just like when we saw with another mangaka, in the previous chapter, we saw a girl who looked exactly like Kokoro, except she had black hair. We can trust Matsumoto not to just have a poor range of drawing skills. Creator of Dragon Ball Z, what's his name? He was famous for, especially in his earlier work, not being able to draw more than one face. He even lampshaded it in one of his Dr. Slump comics. He had a hard time drawing adult females distinctly, but that is not one of Matsumoto's problems. Matsumoto has the ability to differentiate incredibly with his art, and so look at the eyes, look at the face shape, look at the shape of the hands of this little kaiju. What does that remind you of? Look at exactly how it interacted with the girl. What does that remind you of? But anyway, I'll be doing a whole nother video on that. So, a kaiju attacks the wedding. That was not a random attack. It was definitely looking for something. It was definitely doing something. And one of my thoughts is that Toku was one of the primary humans who we know has interacted with Kaiju number 9. Kaiju number 9's body, the one that hunted down Reno and Iharu, the one that Kaiju number 8 fought right after the Battle of the Fungal Kaiju, the one that got away from Kafka, and the exact same body that crawled up on the highway and ate that black-haired guy to switch bodies. That is the Kaiju number 9 body that interacted the most with Toku. And then this Kaiju, acting separately to the other Kaiju, deliberately hunts down Toku's daughter, sniffs her, and tries to eat her, while deliberately ignoring Toku. Now, that's the scene with the blood. That was probably not a random scene. Toku knew at least as much about Kaiju as Kafka did. Toku may not have had Kafka's intense drive to study, but Toku knows how Toku knows how Kaiju operate just as well as Kafka does. If Toku bit his arm to draw blood to attract the Kaiju's attention, then that probably should have worked. Toku's an expert here, but it didn't. So there was something weird about that Kaiju. Then the Kaiju tries to eat his daughter, and Jinrumi shows up and stops it. And then that's when the defense force show up, and we get a handful more panels as the defense force deploys, and we see the defense forces out en masse patrolling the streets of Tokyo, ready to meet these Kaiju in battle. Okay. So, I was going to say that's it, but I've already been talking for nearly 13 minutes. Anyway, so it can't be a coincidence that a Kaiju with distinctly different features than any other Kaiju hunted out Toku's daughter after Toku was crew lead bossing around Kaiju number 9 for an extended period of time. We don't know how long Kaiju number 9 was on the crew. The night the Fungal Kaiju attacked, they were still calling him newbie. It's not quite true. Kaiju number 9 was on that crew at least from the time that Kafka and Reno finished the application to their first sortie. So Kaiju number 9 was on the cleanup crew for several weeks, if not several months. So Kaiju number 9 had a chance to get to know Toku and at least form some sort of positive or negative emotional connection to Toku, if Kaiju number 9 does that. So again, I don't think it was random that the Kaiju showed up and went after Toku's daughter like that. But why? Why? And the more I think about it, the more that chapter looks like deliberate foreshadowing hidden behind common shonen tropes, because a bride being attacked on her wedding day is a fairly common shonen trope. This happens both in the romance and in the but mostly in shonen battle manga. Imagine, has there ever been a single peaceful wedding in a shonen battle manga that was not the final culmination of the story arc? So a bride getting attacked at her wedding, or a monster attacking during a wedding, or a giant robot attacking during a wedding, is a very common trope. So I didn't really think about it. It was just shonen to me. And I was wondering when the story was going to start. But I think the story or the plot threads that will lead to major story points were already being laid in that scene. Why was that one specific Kaiju hunting out not Toku, who Kaiju number 9 might have had a grudge against, because Kaiju number 9 doesn't seem to respond well to being thwarted, and Toku would have been his supervisor. Not Toku, but Toku's daughter. Why would Kaiju number 9 have sent a Kaiju after Toku's daughter? A Kaiju who knew to look into buildings, who was distinctly looking for her. It's so fascinating, and I have so many theories about it. But anyway, that's what this video is already 15 minutes long, so I'm going to wrap it up here. What did you think? Why was that one specific Kaiju going after Toku's daughter? All right. And of course, I'm so excited to get to the next chapter in 2 weeks. We're actually going to see the Defense Force start fighting. And let's see, Reno and Iharu are going to be out there with their ice cannon. And Captain Narumi is going to be out there, but where's Kafka going to be? Are they going to hold Kaiju number 8 back and deploy him in the second wave? Are they going to send him out there where but wouldn't he be out there with where Captain Narumi can take him out if necessary? Or are they are they separating Captain Narumi and Kikoru into backup divisions because they're both so powerful? Like maybe Kikoru will be leading the next wave? There's so much we don't know, but that'll all be revealed next week. And I won't say there's no point in speculating, because speculating is half of what I do on this channel, but I am really excited. To all of my patrons, I am very sorry that there will be no transcript for this one. Generally, I write the script, and then I read it out, and it allows me to speak much more fluidly and increases the quality of my reading. But I got to the end of my Friday workday this week, and I hadn't gotten the script done. Usually I get it done by Thursday afternoon. And with no script on Friday afternoon, I always have to make the choice, well, do I write the script now when I'm tired, or do I just let the talk flow? So I decided to let the talk flow. Hopefully there will be a script next chapter. So if you like what you've heard today, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out the links below the video to get a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, or Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote. And peace out, my wonderful viewers. Remember, Humans Are Weird, 3rd book in the series, launching October 2nd. Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote, and Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote, and Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.